There is a regenerative revolution that's happening in medicine right now, in precision medicine. Billionaires know about it, but the average person doesn't. What pushed me over the edge recently is I had some experiences that really hit me hard. And the accident was so severe that the prognosis was that my career was over.
What would you say is available right now that people would think is science fiction, that doesn't exist, but is actually happening, that people can do? It's tactical right now.
Here's the coolest thing that's coming now, Evan.
Ladies and gentlemen, Believe Nation, back for the third time on our channel, Mr. Tony Robbins. Welcome back, man.
Thank you, Evan. Good to see you, man. I like your studio. It's gorgeous.
It's served me well. It's gone through a bunch of different phases, but yeah, it inspired. One of the things I learned from you is environment is critical. So this inspires me every day I walk into the office.
That's really cool.
This is our third time. We talked about money. We've talked about personal development. Those videos have 3 million views on them.
Wow.
Crazy, the impact that it's having and the reach that it's having. But today we're talking about health. You've got a new book. Here it is. I'm holding it up. We got Life Force in our hands. And this is no joke, man. This is 700 pages. This is a serious book.
You can build muscle just lifting
exactly.
it. That's what I mean.
Why this book? Why is it so important to you?
Well, I think you know me well enough. My whole life has been obsessed with how do you increase the quality of life for people? What are the tools, the strategies, the breakthroughs that can make that happen? And there's only a few areas of life that really matter. It's your body, clearly, because without energy and vitality and strength, you have nothing. There's an old adage that says, a person with health has a million dreams. The person without it has one. But then there's emotion, there's relationship, there's finances, right? There's, your business or your career or hopefully your mission and the spiritual side of life. And so I've always focused on this. But what pushed me over the edge recently is I had some experiences that really hit me hard. And one of them was being an idiot, going down, chasing a 22-year-old professional snowboarder. And I'm not a professional, nor was I 22. And I discovered I couldn't do the things this kid could do. I found out the hard way. And the accident was so severe that the prognosis was that my career was over. First, I thought it broke my neck. It was just torn rotator cuffs. But when I went into 4 different doctors, thing that they came across, one doctor sat me down and said, as bad as this is, and it was, 9-9 because it's nerve pain. He goes, you got a much bigger problem. He says, life as you know it is over. This is literally the guy's bedside manner. I said, clearly you didn't go to my communication seminar, right? And then I try to laugh about it. He goes, this is not a laughing matter. And he showed me my spine. And of course, I've been in pain for more than 14 years. And he said, look, you have extreme spinal stenosis. Your life as you know it's over. There's no snowboarding. There's no running. There's no jumping. And you know what my events are like. It's, I got 15,000 people in a stadium for 12 hours a day, 3 or 4 days in a row. People that wouldn't sit for a 3-hour movie. You can't do it by just talking. And so sure enough, I took the gut hit and then I got my head together. And then I called Peter Diamandis, who's, he's an MD from Harvard, but he's also a rocket scientist, a good friend of mine. And because I'd asked these doctors, well, what about, what's the prognosis? They said, well, you may not be able to lift your arm above your shoulder. They may tear again and 4 to 6 months of rehab. And I said, I can't be one-arm guy on stage with my schedule. It's just not possible. And so I said, what about stem cells? And, I think, I coach some of the greatest of all time athletes in a variety of sports. And, like, for example, Cristiano Ronaldo, he was supposed to be out 3 months. He got stem cells and he was done in 2.5 weeks. He's back playing. So no, they're not going to do it. Not for something this severe. So Peter says, you need to talk to Dr. Bob Harari, who's also a co-author of my book now. And Bob is a neurosurgeon, but he's 38 years ago, helped to discover stem cells. And he said to me, Tony, look at your stage of life. I was 53 at the time. He said, your stem cells have dropped off the cliff. And he said, so going at your own stem cells might work for an elbow or a wrist, but not the complexity of what you have. You need 4-day-old stem cells. And I said, I don't want fetal tissue. He goes, no, not in a million years. So when babies are born, we throw away, most cases, the placenta and the cord. Now, today, a lot of families take that, and Bob's the one who taught that and created that whole system. And he said, you need that because it's the force of life. And he said, I'll tell you where to go. And he goes, you can always go back and do the surgery if it doesn't work, but I think you're going to find it will. I did 3 days of treatment, 20 minutes a day is all, an IV and a shot. But they were cord stem cells, 4-day-old stem cells. The first day, I just felt tired and slept. The second day, I had a cytokine response. I knew what it was, so it wasn't scary, kind of shaking and freezing for about 20 minutes. It just meant my body really responded. I went to sleep, And Evan, you wouldn't believe it. I woke up the next day, not only was my shoulder perfect, and I've had the MRI and so forth since then, no surgery, no recovery time. But for the first time in 14 years, I stood up with no pain in my spine. Wow. And so that made me an evangelist. I want to know everything about stem cells. And then I discovered it's not just stem cells. There is a regenerative revolution that's happening in medicine right now, in precision medicine, that very few people know about because we live in the COVID world where everybody's afraid. And, billionaires know about it, but the average person doesn't. So just like I did with money, where I interviewed 50 of the smartest people in the world, Ray Dalio, Carl Icahn, Warren Buffett, et cetera, and then simplified it, I interviewed 150 Nobel laureates, scientists, and the best doctors in the world to show you here are the little things you can do right now that change your life in various ways. Here's some of the newest technology. Here's how you can prevent it. And if you have somebody in your family who has a disease or a challenge, here's the newest things that you can choose from as opposed to the old approach of standard of care, which in some cases doesn't get great results, as many of us know. So, and I'm donating 100% of the money, just like my last 3 books. This one, 20 million meals are going to Feeding America. I'm up to 850 million meals. When I first met you, I was setting that goal about 7 years ago. So we're almost to 1 billion meals. And then the balance is going for Alzheimer's and heart disease and cancer, some of the top researchers in the world.
How many times have you been told that your career is over?
Well, I was told I was going to die because I had a tumor in my brain, in my pituitary. I still have that tumor, and that was when I was 32, and I'm 62. So, yes, I've had a few of those, but this one was a little more scary. I wouldn't say it was more scary than the tumor, but it certainly seemed like the amount of pain was not going to go away, and being able to find an answer has changed my life completely.
I remember the voice box one where you said you're never going to talk again. You can't do your
That's right
anymore too.
That's right.
A lot of the advice in the longevity field is there's so much coming in the next 15 to 20 years that basically just don't die. Like your job number one now is just don't die because so many amazing things are coming.
Yes.
What would you say is available right now that people would think is science fiction that doesn't exist, but is actually happening that people can do? It's tactical right now.
If you got a disease or a challenge, there's some miraculous things. There's a right now, and it's covered by insurance, and it's in 100 hospitals. Incisionless brain surgery. You go, why would I want that? Well, if you have a mother or a father, a grandfather who's got Parkinson's, I went and watched this person who couldn't walk across the room, 15 medications. People don't understand, shaking, they can't hold a glass, they can't do anything. They literally go in with this extreme ultrasound. It takes about an hour to find the location that's controlling the tremor. They treat it in 15 seconds as an outpatient experience. Again, 100 hospitals covered by insurance. This woman got off the table and walked across the room perfectly. They handed her a glass of water. She hadn't fully measured. And when she reached out, her hand was solid. She drank the water. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody who's got those audio implants and then they hear for the first time and they start crying their eyes out. Same reaction. And that was 2 years ago, the first time I saw that. I've been working on this project for 3 years. 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago now, she was on a 50-mile bike ride. I mean, just unbelievable. There's a company right now, if people have osteoarthritis, and it's happening younger and younger people, unfortunately, today for a variety of reasons based on inflammation, the way we eat and so forth. But osteoarthritis, I mean, it's unbelievably painful. There's no real great treatment. It's mostly, trying to use painkillers. Well, there's a single injection. This company is in phase 3 trials. So this is coming by, they believe, the end of this year or next year. So your audience knows phase 1 is safety in the FDA. Phase 2 is effectiveness or efficacy. Phase 3 is efficacy at scale. And then you get approved. So they're in the final phase. Assuming they get approved the end of this year or beginning of spring, single injection. And it fires off something called the WNT, W-N-T pathway, which is everything you're made of is stem cells. But the WNT pathway after you're born is what directs it all. Send this many brain cells, this many heart cells. They have found the fountain of youth and the ability to either upload it, make it stronger, or download it with cancer where you want things to slow down, not multiply so much. And they literally, your body with one shot regrows all your tendons in 11 months. And it's from your initial genome. So it's like Dolly, the sheep was old and you got a brand new sheep. You've got 16-year-old tendons, even if you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. Just mind-boggling. Then there's the things that also that you should know about that are breakthroughs in prevention because, for example, cancer. Growing up, I had this fear of cancer. Early on, I thought I was going to die young. It was horrible. And then I helped somebody who's still alive today. She was 40, she's now 80. Because it wasn't me, I geared up, I read everything. I said, look, if someone has stage 4 cancer and they're supposed to die, thousands of people have lived, let's figure out what they do. Anyway, she did it. She's alive today. I write about it in the book. but it changed my mindset. It changed my psychology about things. But today, the reason people die of cancer is because we find out too late. In other words, the Cancer Society did a study with 100,000 people and found if you have stage 3 or stage 4 cancer, 80% chance you die. Now, I prefer 20% chance I live, and what do I do? But their point is much harder to turn around, which is true. If you do it stage 1 or 2, you discover it, there's an 80 to 99.9% chance that you're going to live. And so you want to catch it early. Well, the problem is we only have a few tests for cancers. Mammograms for women, let's say, tests that can be done for your colon and so forth. But most people, where they die is the cancers that we don't have tests for. So one of the great things in this book is I tell the stories of the heroes of the book, the people who have created these unbelievable breakthroughs that'll blow your mind. And they went through 20 years, ups and downs, and still made it through. Why? Because they almost everyone lost a husband, a wife, a daughter, or a son, or someone, and it made them go, I'm not settling for the standard of care. I'm going to honor my child by doing this. So there's a new blood test that just came out in the last 6 months. It's called GRAIL. It can find 50 different cancers before you have any symptoms. Now, the power of that is unbelievable. That with an MRI, which will go across the blood-brain barrier, and you know what's going on in your body. And it's really inexpensive. And the guy that did it, his wife, of course, died. They found out too late and went through 2 years of this. And so he just geared up and found the answer. But it's so powerful. We have these centers, these life centers that I work with. Dr. Bill Kapp, who had 12 hospitals he built and owned. And then he finally said, I'm tired of disease care. I want to go into precision medicine. I want to go into regenerative medicine. And so he's partnered with me with a bunch of centers across the US and Abu Dhabi. But he called me and he says, Tony, he said, it's you can't even believe this. He said, you got to see this guy. So we're talking about this man who just came in. His wife was, she knew what we had and she was pushing him. He's like, I had my physical, I did my blood, I did my, urinalysis. I'm fine. We gave him the GRAIL test, bladder cancer. But the cool thing is it was the early stage. It was a 20-minute outpatient procedure. He's got no cancer. I'll tell you another one. Heart disease, #1 killer, right? Men and women. The cutting edge to know what's going on, which most people don't even get, is a CT scan. They only go usually when they got pain or problems. A CT scan, if you've ever seen one, it's extremely hard to read. They're looking for plaques in your body that can kill you, right? Well, there's 2 different types of plaques, calcified and soft plaques. Soft plaques can break off and be the widowmaker, right? Turn you, heart attack, kill you, or give you a stroke. But calcified plaques are hard, and that means you're actually healed. So he said, Tony, there's a lot of the old technology up until, again, a little less than 6 months ago. It's really hard to tell, and so a lot of surgeries happen that don't even need to happen. There's this new technology, it's called CCTA. And this technology uses AI and digitally opens up all your arteries in your body that they film through the CT, searches with like a missile inside, and shows where the calcium is, whether it's soft or whether it's hardened. And if you're hardened, you're fine, but they can predict a heart attack up to 5 years in advance and tell you, more importantly, what to do to avoid it. So my partner called me, and he's Dr. Bill, we call him, is the most understated guy. A lot of people are hypesters. When Bill talks, he talks real slow and quiet, and we all lean in to listen. Tony, he said, I have to tell you, it sounds exaggerated, but I think we've been exposed to one of the greatest breakthroughs in cardiology in the last 10 years. I'm like, what is it, Bill? My tempo is different, right? He goes, well, he told me the whole story. I said, okay, I'm in. I'm going to do this. So my father-in-law is with me, and he just turned 80. He's a self-made man, built his own businesses, very much like you, right? Just go get her, make it happen. But his business was lumber. He's a pretty strong guy. But when you turn 80, people around you start saying you should get your affairs in order and do your will and stuff. And I could just see the last 2 or 3 years, his energy shrinking. So I said, Dad, look, you're here with me. I'm going to go do this test. It's here in Florida. It's not far from here. Just pop on the plane. It's in Western Florida. And I said, let's come with me. I said, we're both old enough that we're going to have some soft plaques, but we'll know where it is and they'll show us what to do. So he said, okay, I'm in. I take my father-in-law there. He gets the test. He has no soft plaques in his entire body. The guy is clean as a whistle at 80 years old. The change in him when he knew he was totally fine was unbelievable. I was better than I was 5 years ago. I was doing great, but not as good as him. And so then we have this technique we've done for some of the greatest athletes in the world. It's pretty extraordinary, where when you have an injury, I'm sure you know, connective tissue gets in there, and then lack of circulation, and sometimes nerves get trapped. People go through big surgeries. Well, now the state of the art is they scan you with ultrasound. They can see exactly what's going on. So I have this ankle that's been a problem for about 15, 16 years. You couldn't touch it even, like a massage. It would shoot electricity at my body because of the nerves. They see what the problem is. They put amnio fluid in and it opens up all the channels. The fluid opens up, the oxygen goes up, and the nerve pops in place. It took 15 minutes. You can slap my side of my ankle, doesn't feel anything. It's perfect. So I said to Dad, he's there. I said, Dad, he's having this, what makes you feel old is not being able to move, right? Aches and pains, and he has huge hip problems. So I said, as long as you're here, why don't you talk to these docs? They scan him, they find 2 locations he needs a simple treatment for. It takes 30 minutes. And an hour later, he's walking smooth as silk for the first time in 15 years, right? 20 years. He's like, he gets on the plane with me. This is one of my favorite moments. He crosses his arms like this and he goes, Tony, these people talk about living 110, 120. I don't know about that. But you know what? My heart's perfect. My hip's perfect. I could live another 20 years. You've only been married to my daughter for 22 years. That's like another lifetime, So there are tools, not just Ray Kurzweil is the person you're pretty much quoting who says, take care of yourself today so you make it to the time where this new technology is here. Well, he wrote that about 10 years ago. And Ray wrote the introduction to my book, by the way. Ray's a dear friend. We're at the point where some of those things are happening right now. But over the next 3 to 7 years, there are going to be changes greater than have happened in 200 years. Because, as you know, technology, doubles in its power every 18 months, halves in its cost. Well, we don't usually see that in medicine, but we're all code. So I know I'm sure you know about CRISPR and gene editing. I mean, we're curing disease and never been cured. There's a kid that was on America's Got Talent who can now see for the first time because of gene therapy. So there are so many extraordinary tools both to prevent, and there's so many tools to help you increase. And if you want to talk about more of them, I've talked too long. We can talk about those as well.
Oh, those are great. I mean, I think of Money Master the Game. You took an industry that people were afraid of, finances, and we trusted the experts. And what you did with the book was demystify it and empower people to ask the right questions and pick the right providers. And it feels like you're doing the same thing now, just with health. We trust the experts to guide us to the right path, but now you're kind of arming people with the tools and the right questions to ask so that they can make better decisions and have more accountability for their own health. Is that a good framework?
Very true. And not all experts are equal, as you well know, whether it's finance or health. And so what I want to do is bring them the best of the best with a track record. So there's nothing in this that's my opinion, just like the financial book. Everything is from the best people in the world. You could judge for yourself what you might want to do.
So you mentioned the Fountain Life Centers. I went to the website. It looked like you had one in Toronto, which is my hometown. At least it said that on the site.
I think they're just opening Toronto. Yeah, I think they're just opening it.
So I'm 41. As far as we know, I'm in great health. Yes. Losing some hair, maybe receding gum lines a bit. But apart from that, passing my physicals. If I'm walking into Fountain Life Center at 41, male, what am I asking for? What am I trying to get?
Well, you might want to do, say, I want to do an advanced physical, because at 41, you're at a beautiful tipping point. You can continue to grow and expand. And if you make some mistakes or just have things in your own DNA you're unaware of, in your own genetics, that might need to be dealt with. So the best thing is to have the knowledge. It's like ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is pain. Ignorance can be problems. So you can do that in about 3 hours, 3.5 hours. They do a full body MRI. They do the Grail test. They'll do your hormonal test, because at 40, your hormones will start to shift at some point between 40 and 50. And you don't want to wait till there's a problem. Like, I'll give you an example. We had a guy come in, I think he was 44, 45. I don't remember his exact age, mid-40s. And he's 36 pounds overweight, clearly not you. He's, lost his drive. And, we said, well, if you looked at your hormones, something very simple, right? But most people, like women, know about hormones, but they think of hormone replacement therapy, which is like menopause. Well, before you get to replacement, there's optimization in the world we live in. You can make tiny changes and optimize your energy, your strength, the levels most people don't dream about, where you feel 10 or 15 years younger. So the guy comes in, he works out like crazy, can't lose weight, listless, all these problems. Have you done your hormones? Oh, yeah, I've done my hormones. Well, show us the test. So they send us the test, and, he's at 225 on his testosterone. Well, most doctors are not going to say you need replacement until you're like 175, but most men need 700 to 900 or slightly higher to feel human, to feel alive, to feel strong. All we did was make a small change, not a giant injection of testosterone. And the guy lost 36 pounds in less than 90 days. More importantly, he's got his drive back. He feels like he's 10 years younger. So you want to just know where you stand. That would be number one. Then there's what do you do for peak performance? Like we work with, we have a center, for example, in Pittsburgh. We work with the entire Pittsburgh Steelers team. We don't just do rehab, we do optimization. I'm sure you've heard of David Sinclair. Dr. Sinclair, you're familiar with him from Harvard, right?
Yep.
So he's one of the best longevity experts on earth. He's a good friend. He's on my board. And David is 53. chronologically. He's 33. He's younger than you and I at the level of his organs and how his system works. And you can measure it now. How did he do it? He's utilized a few things that reawaken your body. So let me give your audience a quick lesson. I'm going to give you 3 words. You don't have to memorize them. They're in the book, but the concept's what you need to understand. So we all know, I think by now, most people know, your DNA is not your destiny. Those 3.2 billion letters from your mom and 3.2 billion from your dad make up your genes. Think of that as the plan. But how you turn out, you can have the same DNA and show up different than somebody else, because what matters is your epigenome. Epi means above. So think of the genome or your DNA as like the piano. The piano player is the epigenome. It decides which genes turn on or off. Your epigenome is affected by diet, radiation, exercise, sleep, just about everything you can imagine, exposure to chemicals. So you want to take care of it. Well, now I'll give you the 3 technical words, but don't worry about the technical. There are 7 master genes that Dr. Sinclair has discovered that completely affect the quality of your life and how you age and the aliveness and strength you have. And those are called sirtuins, if you want to know it. These sirtuins have 2 completely different tasks that work really well into your late 30s, maybe your early 40s, and then they drop off the cliff. What do? Number 1, they determine which genes get turned on or off by epigenome. It's critical in terms of your strength, your vitality, and or your aging. 2, they reduce inflammation, which, as I'm sure you know, is the basis of most breakdown and disease. But 3, most importantly to me, because I value energy so much, the energy in your body, I'm sure you know, comes from those mitochondria. In every cell, you have this little factory that makes it. COVID gets in and steals from that. That's why people have that long-term fatigue, for example. Well, in order for those to fire off, you need these sirtuins to be doing their job, but they have a fuel source they need. You probably have heard of it. It's called NAD. N is in never AD. Well, NAD is a fuel source, drops off the cliff, late 40s, and by early 50s, it's down by at least 50%. Well, without the NAD, the sirtuins can't do the things I told you about, but it also have one other task that has to split its focus because it has less fuel. It also, these sirtuins go through your body and clean up your DNA. So as you get older, as you get exposed, you accumulate exposure to radiation, chemicals, et cetera, and your DNA starts to get compromised. So the sirtuins go in and actually heal it, repair it. But now when you don't have enough fuel for the sirtuins, not enough NAD, now they have to decide, am I going to clean up DNA or am I going to give enough energy for the mitochondria? And so right when you need it most, because of the accumulated challenges, everything starts to break down. It's kind of like if you had a mansion and you were lucky enough to have this great staff and they're young, in the beginning, the mansion always looks new. Things break down, but they get fixed immediately. Boom, snap your fingers, 7 billion liver cells are gone, but 7 billion new ones come. But as they get older and they get aged, they get tired, and then you don't have the raw materials, your mansion breaks down, and that's aging. So remember, these master genes that make all this happen need this fuel source called NAD, and NAD needs a precursor to be absorbed in the cells and created. And it's the last word I'll give you. It's called NMN. Many people have heard of it. N is in never, M is in mother, N. Well, it's dropped off by 50%. Now your body starts to break down slowly but surely, or you don't feel the same, or you need tremendous energy in the brain. That's the largest source of energy or demand on energy. And all of a sudden you feel a little foggy and so forth. So the good news is, it sounds like a terrible thing. Oh my God, everything starts to break down. You can supplement this natural element in your body. Slight problem. When I went with David, we went with a lab with him, we looked at 6 different brands because I was looking which one I want to do. And some are cheap, $35, some are $125. But no rhyme or reason, none of them had any NMN in it. And it's advertised and promoted and selling for it. I was like, I asked the lab tech, I said, are these people just cheats? He goes, well, some do, Tony. Most of the stuff comes from China. But he said, the real problem is it breaks down within 30 to 45 days. So by the time somebody gets it, they may not have been lying it was in it, but it's gone now. And so I said, well, what's the solution? So David has his own version of NMN, but here's the coolest thing that's coming now, Evan. If you take an old mouse, when I say old mouse, like a 70-year-old human would be a 20-month-old mouse, and you put them on a treadmill, the most they can go without exhaustion is 1/4 kilometer. But if you give them, and by the way, the young, strong mouse can run 4 times that much without exhaustion, can go a full kilometer. Well, watch this. They give NMN for 14 days to a mouse, old mouse. And within 14 days, they're running 2 to 3 kilometers, 200 to 300% more than the strongest mouse. You go, well, that's great, Tony. Do my studies always go with humans? The answer is no, not always. So that was my first question. So David's in partnership with a group called Eden Rock And they have, for the last 2 years, been doing something that's top secret, but it just got released. It was in the Daily Mail, and it was released by a commander who was not supposed to release it. They've been using a new form of NMN, a new molecule they created called MIB626. And this molecule does not break down like traditional NMN. In fact, its absorption level on traditional NMN, the most you get is 30% absorption. This one has 300 to 400% more in your body. So it's way beyond what they give the mouse, to give you an idea. They've been giving it to the strongest men and women in the world, our special forces, for 2 years. So the commander got so excited, even though it's top secret, he talked to somebody in the press. It got reported in Boston and then picked up in the Daily Mail, but they still don't know most of it. I can't tell you I'm an investor in the company because I wanted first access, but I can't tell you things that are not revealed, but I can tell you what they said. What he said was what you saw in the mice studies, we saw in the strongest human beings who have less room to grow or improve. He said their endurance levels have exploded. More importantly, their strength has increased from the same level of stimulus. And most importantly, their cognitive capacity is shot through the roof. So now there's 3 different medical studies. One's on COVID, both long-term and short, because as I told you, it steals the mitochondria and showing the impact of this new component. There's some on kidneys because COVID's long-term impact often affects this. And then there's the traditional ones that they're doing. So the FDA is tracking this with the military, and they believe they'll have approval in 18 to 24 months because it's already gone through safety and efficacy. Now it's called efficacy at scale. So it's not going to be a nutraceutical. It'd be something you go to your doctor for. And imagine you could have a pill that would massively increase the amount of energy in your body at a mitochondrial level at every cell. That means every organ is going to be operating better. The right genes turning on and off, inflammation coming down, and your DNA being collected and cleaned up like you're 15 or 18 or 21 years old. So those are some of the things that are exciting. So I show you what you do right now and what's coming not 10 years in the future, 12, 24, maximum 36 months out.
So exciting. It's so crazy.
It's exciting. It's unbelievable.
Last question, Tony. You've done so much to help so many people for such a long time. If people were to think of you tonight in their prayers, what would you have them pray for?
Well, good health, of course. That's so I can stick around. But guidance, continue to guide me so I can serve as many human beings as possible. I'm privileged to have this amazing life. I'm going to be 62, as I said. I look at my life. I've got 5 kids and 5 grandkids that I so love and I'm proud of. I got the most amazing wife. And I have the most amazing life where I've been able to serve literally millions of people because I was born at a time where I could get on a plane and go to, 15 countries in a year and do 125 cities. But now I have the technology, like being able to talk with you right now. I built a studio because when they shut down the world and only have 10 people and I'm used to 15,000, I did a seminar last week for 6 straight days for 800,000 people in 195 countries. So I want to keep this health so I can be here for all those I love. And I want to be able to continue to serve. So I appreciate the prayers. I believe prayer has power.
I love it. Well, the man is Tony Robbins. The book is Life Force. Here's what it looks like. Go pick it up. We'll link it up in the description below. Tony, as always, man, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, man. Blessings to you.
If you want to see the last time I sat down with Tony Robbins, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Quality of your life has nothing to do with how much money you have, how many beautiful children you have, how many people love you. The quality of your life is where you live emotionally. This is the time to retool. It's the time for you to say, where's the world now? Where do I think it's going?